Here's something nobody teaches you in school. The moment money shows up in your life, it immediately starts moving through invisible systems. And those systems? They decide whether your money grows, shrinks, gets taxed heavily, or disappears the second something goes wrong. Most people never see these systems. They just earn, spend, and hope. But the people quietly building real wealth? They understand exactly how these structures work, and they set them up early. Today, we're breaking down 5 money structures that could completely change how you think about wealth. Not complicated theory, just clear, practical understanding that puts you ahead of 95% of people your age. If success is your goal and you're ready to level up, make sure you subscribe. Every video is crafted to move you closer to the life you deserve. Let's get into it. Structure 1. Ownership structures. The box that protects everything. Let's start with the most foundational concept, ownership structures. Most people assume ownership is straightforward. You buy something, your name is on it, done. And honestly, for everyday stuff, your phone, your furniture, your car, that's completely fine. Nobody's suing you over a couch. But the moment an asset starts generating real money, the rules change fast. When something produces income, it also produces exposure. It can get sued. It can owe debts. It can attract legal claims. And if that income-producing asset sits directly in your personal name, you and that asset are legally the same thing. If it goes down, you go down with it. This is exactly why wealthy people almost never hold serious assets in their own name. Instead, they place a legal entity, usually a company, between themselves and the asset. The company owns the asset. The person owns the company. That one structural move creates a wall. Problems hit the company. The person stays protected. Think of it like putting a valuable painting inside a fireproof vault. The vault can take the damage. The painting stays untouched. But ownership isn't just about protection. It's also about control. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. Owning 50% of something doesn't automatically give you 50% of the power. Legal documents determine who has voting rights, who can approve decisions, who can block a sale. 2 people can co-own an asset equally on paper, but only one of them can actually steer it. The structure decides who's really in charge, not the percentage. Tax treatment also shifts depending on ownership. The same asset, producing the same income, can be taxed completely differently depending on whether the money flows directly to a person or stays inside a company structure. Same dollars, different destination, different outcome. And as assets multiply, smart owners don't stack everything in one place. They separate them. One company for a business, another entity for a property, another for investments. Each sits in its own box. If one fails, the others aren't dragged down with it. The mental shift that matters here. Workers think about how much they earn. Owners think about where things are placed. The container becomes just as important as what's inside it. Structure 2. Cash flow structures. The loop that builds itself. Now let's talk about cash flow structures, because this one changes everything about how money actually accumulates. The default money pattern for most people looks like this. Income arrives, bills get paid. Whatever's left drifts toward lifestyle upgrades. A slightly nicer apartment, more subscriptions, better restaurants. The income grows, but somehow the account stays at the same level. Sound familiar? That's what happens without a cash flow structure. Money follows the path of least resistance, straight into consumption. A cash flow structure flips that order. Instead of lifestyle first, assets first. Income comes in and immediately gets directed. A portion moves into investments, a portion into business building activity, a portion into anything that can generate future returns. Lifestyle spending comes after the assets get fed, not before. The difference feels subtle early on. Over years, it's the difference between financial pressure and financial momentum. Here's where it gets interesting. As assets build up, they start producing their own income. Rental payments, dividends, business distributions, interest. Suddenly, money isn't only coming from your work. It's coming from things you already own. Now you have two streams instead of one. And those streams start feeding each other. Income purchases assets. Assets generate income. That new income funds more assets. The loop begins running partially on its own. That's the moment everything shifts from a straight line to a self-reinforcing cycle. This also explains why income level alone doesn't determine financial stability. Someone earning a large salary but routing everything into lifestyle can feel constantly stressed because everything depends on them performing at 100%. Someone earning less but running a structured cash flow system feels more secure because multiple income streams are already working in the background. You don't need massive income to build this structure. You need intention. Decide where each dollar goes the moment it arrives. Some for today's life, some for tomorrow's growth, some for emergencies. Each dollar has a job. That's a cash flow structure. Structure 3. Tax structures. Why the path money travels matters. Here's a truth most people don't fully grasp until they start making real money. Not all income is taxed equally. Most people only experience one type of tax situation: salary income. You work, you get paid, a portion disappears immediately. It feels automatic because it is. But salary is just one category of income, and it tends to be the most heavily taxed kind. Money generated through assets, businesses, and investments can travel a very different path through the tax system. The rules around timing, classification, and reinvestment create massive differences in outcomes. Timing alone is huge. Employment income gets taxed the moment you receive it. Money generated inside a company or investment vehicle can often stay there, be reinvested, and continue growing before any tax event is triggered. Tax still gets paid, but later. And money that keeps moving keeps compounding before it gets touched. Classification matters just as much. The same amount of money can be categorized as salary, business profit, a dividend, or a capital gain depending entirely on how it was generated and what structure holds it. Each category carries different rules, different rates, and different timing. Same dollar amount, potentially very different outcome. Reinvestment is another lever. Money spent ends its journey. Money kept inside a business or investment and used to generate further growth is often treated differently than money pulled out for personal spending. The structure determines whether that option even exists. The mindset shift that separates people who pay maximum tax from people who build wealth. Stop asking, "How much tax do I owe?" and start asking, "What type of income is this and where does it live?" Those two questions unlock a completely different level of decision-making. Structure 4. Debt structures. Leverage that works for you. Debt has a terrible reputation, and honestly, for good reason. Most people's experience with debt involves credit cards and personal loans, money borrowed to fund things that immediately lose value. The item disappears or depreciates. The bill stays. Nothing was created. But there's a second type of debt that behaves in the opposite way. When borrowed money is attached to an asset, a property, a business, equipment, and investment, it doesn't just drain cash flow, it can generate it. The asset works. The income from that asset can help service the debt cost, and you access something far larger than your savings alone could have reached. That's leverage working in your favor. The clearest way to understand the difference: one type of debt buys things that disappear, the other buys things that keep producing. Structure 5. Risk structures. Containing the damage before it happens. The final structure is the one most people ignore until it's too late. Risk structures. Here's the reality. Risk never disappears. Markets shift. Business decisions fail. Partners let you down. Projects collapse. Anyone building anything over a long enough time frame will experience serious setbacks. The question isn't whether something goes wrong. The question is how far the damage spreads when it does. Without risk structure, everything is connected. One failing business can drain personal savings. One lawsuit can touch assets that had nothing to do with the original problem. One mistake leaks into every area of life simultaneously. Risk structures prevent that chain reaction by creating separation. Each asset category lives in its own legal container. A business sits in one entity. A property sits in another. Investments sit in a third. Personal finances stay outside all of them. If one box takes a hit, the walls keep it contained. The others continue running. Limited liability structures are one of the most basic tools here, placing the legal responsibility for an asset's debts and legal exposure inside a company, so it stops there instead of reaching personal assets. Insurance works the same way conceptually. It absorbs shocks that would otherwise land directly on your net worth. The combined result of these walls? The freedom to take calculated risks. When failure is survivable. When a bad decision hurts but doesn't destroy the whole system, you can make bolder moves. You stop playing purely defensively and start making strategic decisions based on real opportunity. Wealth isn't just built by making smart choices. It's preserved by surviving the dumb ones. Leverage allows movement that saving alone would take years to achieve. But, and this matters, leverage only serves you when the asset performs. If the asset generates income or appreciates, the math works in your favor. If it fails, the debt remains regardless. Risk still exists. What changes with structured debt is how contained that risk stays. Debt sitting on top of an income-producing asset has something to absorb the pressure. Debt sitting on top of lifestyle has nothing beneath it. The wealthiest people in the world aren't necessarily smarter. They just build smarter containers for their money. Now, you know exactly what those containers look like. All of them become dramatically more valuable the earlier you apply them. Know in the comments what all did we do right so that we can improve and keep doing that better. Don't forget to share this video with at least one person who will get some insights, because one video is enough to give people enough ideas to change their lives. I'll see you in the next video, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel.